Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we explore convenient yet effective shortcuts that will help you get ahead and move forward faster by becoming a better leader. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rembach.
Call Center Coach develops and unites the next generation of call center leaders. Through our e-learning and community, individuals gain knowledge and skills in the 6 core competencies that is the blueprint that develops high-performing call center leaders. Successful supervisors do not just happen. So go to callcentercoach.com to learn more about enrollment and download your copy of the Supervisor Success Path ebook now. Okay, Fast Leader Legion, today I'm excited because I have somebody on the show today who has an extensive experience in contact center customer care, and we're going to talk about a little bit more of that external effect of the customer experience and customer success. Michael Pace was born and raised in Sparta, New Jersey. He's the oldest of 3 and has a brother and sister, both still living in New Jersey. He also has 5 stepbrothers and sisters, all with loads of kids of their own, and he's an uncle to 12. Growing up like George Costanza on Seinfeld, he wanted to be an architect or an engineer. But after seeing all the math he would have to take in college, he switched his major to sports management. After college, Michael left for Orlando, which was becoming an exciting sports town, but after finding only internships, he landed a role with a travel agency selling trips to the Bahamas, COD, cash on delivery, for anyone less than 40 years old. They would hand him a phone book each day, and he would call. He hated that job, and it was like a boiler room with corny rebuttals and canned responses. In the late 1990s, he had an opportunity to move back home to New Jersey and began working at Tiffany & Company, where he discovered that he truly enjoyed helping people and customer service. After a few years with Tiffany & Company, Michael moved to Massachusetts to be with his new wife and started with a new division of Capital One, managing the contact center that focused on selling installment loans for elective medical financing. Michael moved into on the operations program management role and build out the entire division's telephony and case management systems. Eventually, he took on IT projects and continued to build out operations. 2006, he took over the entire contact center activity for the division. But in 2008, when the financial markets blew up, Capital One needed to shut down that division. As one door opens and as one door closes, another door opens, and he had the unique opportunity to work with Constant Contact to build out a bleeding-edge customer service for the SaaS-based newsletter leader. His role encompassed the strategy and analysis for the group, workforce management, process management, outsourcer relationships, knowledge management teams, and one of the first social customer service teams. In 2012, he decided to start his own consultancy, The Pace of Service. Since then, he's worked with companies like Citizens Bank, David Yurman, Tony Birch, Blue Nile, Rulala, Converse Social, and a number of startups. And he's also the president of the Northeast Contact Center Forum. Michael is now a single dad to a 14-year-old boy, Braden, who loves soccer, especially the British Premier League. They live in Foxborough, Massachusetts, only a few steps away from Gillette Stadium, even though he's a Dallas Cowboys fan. Michael Pace, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
I am ready to help you get over the hump, yes.
I'm glad you're here. Now, I've given my Legion a little bit about you, but can you tell us what your current passion is so that we can get to know you even better?
Sure. I'm a pretty fortunate guy. I get to wake up each day envisioning how I can help create environments and journeys and actions for companies' customers. I truly believe successful customers and associates are what make companies wildly successful. So my goal is to help make your company's customers more successful, and that's how I believe I help make you more successful.
Okay, so when you say that, I start thinking of viewpoints and filters and perceptions, and to me, I start thinking of that concept of outside in. Is that really what you're talking about?
Yes, I think customer service and experience should be customer centric, right? Whether you're talking of this kind of new world of subscriptions and SaaS, a lot of that is about customer success, right? But even when you're talking about retail, which I do a lot of work in, or banking, or most any industry, insurance, healthcare. What customers are looking for is to be successful, either the task or the part of the relationship, or why they're with you, right? They're looking for how can they navigate your website successfully. They're looking for how can they complete a transaction successfully. They're looking for how can they, build their relationship with you more successfully. And so some people think of it as sometimes it's a little bit of, like customer effort score and, how easy it is for you to use a company, right? I think that's part of success, but it's not the whole piece, but it's a big piece. Or how well you're able to, absorb or use loyalty programs and such, right? That's a part of customer success. It's a slightly different way of looking at, things like customer satisfaction, customer effort score. It's a little bit more of pulling in, both relationship goals, or how you feel about a company, but also baking in behavioral results as well.
Okay, so I think right now we're hearing a lot of information around people talking about motion. And for me, as you were talking about that, I started thinking about, that whole emotion component in that customer success piece. And so when you start looking at some, the measurements and metrics, you have to question whether or not they're capturing that appropriately. When you start looking at it from, a marketing perspective, in addition to a service perspective, I start thinking about all kinds of different things. So I think ultimately, in order for us to really, detect, investigate, interpret, all of that, we need to have some systems and frameworks. And you started talking about really a couple different aspects of this. So
Yes.
When you're referring to an organization, working with you or helping an organization, how do you essentially categorize these things so that you can move forward?
For years, marketing has had the quote unquote funnel, right? So where people think about the awareness, the consideration, the intent. Hopefully there is a purchase period at the bottom of that funnel. Some folks have come along and say we should be flipping the funnel, and at the bottom of that funnel should be things like support and loyalty and advocacy programs, right? So now you're looking at almost like an hourglass, right? Instead of a funnel. And, that, is about the customer's entire journey, right? The customer experience is not just customer service. It's about the complete, it's about all the senses, coming together, and things like customer support and customer success are, a huge piece of that, of that journey. But you can't neglect a lot of the marketing pieces, and you can't neglect, the further down the road things like loyalty and advocacy programs. They're all interconnected, but you also need to take it from a customer-centric point of view. Customers don't see, your company as, here's company A, and here's company A's marketing department, and here's company A's customer service department, and here's their loyalty program. They're just company A, right? That's all they are. All of us, we have too many companies to kind of keep in mind to kind of, segregate them out that way and such. So, thinking about, companies from a larger holistic standpoint, how do I help make them more successful? In transversing that entire, marketing funnel / hourglass type of thing, right? How is it easy for them to come into your company, get to know your company, have expectations set for your company, making the purchase easier? How do you make the adoption of your product or service happen faster at higher value? How do you support them when things go wrong? How do you recover from when things go wrong? And how do you create that, immense loyalty and advocacy? And like I said, there's an emotional piece of it, right? How you feel about a company, but there's also a lot of it that's behavioral, right? Let me throw a quick example out to make that a little bit more clear. So, I have a particular cable company who, if they looked at me behaviorally, would think I am an incredible customer. I have all the phone bundles and super highest internet and what have you, right? I feel like I am just held hostage to them every single day, right? Now, they would think of me as an amazing customer. On a slightly opposite end of that, I use, I think about like Pandora. Who doesn't like Pandora? Everyone likes Pandora. It's like your own personal radio station, right? Would I promote Pandora? Sure, I'd probably promote Pandora. But I don't pay for their service. And honestly, I probably remember I have it on my phone or on my Alexa maybe once or twice a year. Honestly, I totally forget about it. But as a single, you mentioned before, I'm a single dad. My Alexa's starting to talk now. I'm a single dad, and I go to Costco every 2 weeks. I have no business being at Costco every 2 weeks. I love Costco. I think it's an amazing company. I love what they do, kind of for their associates. I love how I feel when I walk out of there. I always feel like I got a great deal. I'm a successful shopper. And behaviorally, I go there way too often. Right? They're in my, champion kind of quadrant there when you're thinking about things. So there's always this mix of both relationship and behaviors, going on simultaneously.
So, okay. So when I started thinking about some of the aspects of being able to understand that customer to a certain degree and being able to interpret and therefore make some types of decisions and some changes, I started thinking about one of the things that we often have trouble with when we start looking at determining and interpreting all of these things, and that is we really only know our own, lens and purview. So to me, when you start thinking about some of these things, it's like, look, an organization internally just can't do that. So, where do you help organizations understand that, look, you're good at understanding this because you have an extensive operational background, systems background, all of that. So it's like, okay, you guys understand this, but the information that you're trying to seek here, or the answers that you're trying to get, or what you're attempting to do, really you don't have a good interpretation of that, and that needs to be handled here. How do you go through that?
When you look at customer journeys, right? I think it's becoming a more popular trend for organizations to understand the paths their customers go down. Too frequently, they look at it in terms of only of their processes, right? Let me give you an example, like the travel industry, right? If you were to book travel, right, you'll go to a website and you will go through their process of searching and booking and eventually maybe even putting some things onto your like iPhone or Android phone for easier booking stuff later on, right, or reminders or what have you. And then you go on your trip and you go on your trip, what have you. If I only looked at the customer journey through the lens of my travel company, right, I would only be thinking about how they interact with like my website, or how they interact with my payment system, or were they able to download their tickets at the end of the event. But in real life, think about your actual journey, right? So that booking piece is only a part of things. You're researching, the location. You are, when you are booking, you might be even researching the types of cars or flights, or where, the map locations of things, right? How are you going to get from one place to another? When you get down to your, say you're going to like Orlando, for an example, and I had this, personally happen to me recently. I got down to Orlando and I got to the car rental place, and it was all booked and all that stuff was easy, and it was super easy to book. And I got down to the car agency and I sat there, there was nobody in any line to the left of me or to the right of me, and there was about 2 or 3 people in front of me, and I was there for 50 minutes. And all I kept thinking during this entire time was, you were stopping me from getting to my vacation, right? You are my conduit to my vacation. You're just not renting me a car. Your purpose, your why is to help me go vacation, and have a great time and such, But and that's where you could see, like, the customer journey isn't just linear to your individual processes. It's multidimensional and layered upon how a customer sees things, and having a customer be successful. In our trip analogy here, it's about their entire vacation being successful, right? Even though you just might be the booking agent, you are again, to use the word, sort of the conduit to that vacation. And there's lots of aspects that are peripheral, but are just as important to that customer, for them to have if it is a successful vacation or a successful trip or a successful successful working with your SaaS marketing systems or whatever it could be.
Well, I know when you start talking about this broader customer experience and the whole frustration that can be created from it, both internally and externally, there's a lot of ways that we need to really focus. And one of the things that we use on the show are quotes to help us focus. Is there a quote or two that you like that you can share?
Yeah, I think my focus quote is pretty focused. My quote is from Mahatma Gandhi. It's, "Action expresses priorities." It's quite simple. And I like this quote because, when you think about customer service, the very first thing that all the best customer experiences have in common is they make the experience, the quality of the experience, the priority. If you are constantly balancing, the cost of your experience, or risk management of your experience, or even the timetables of your experience, if you think of the quadruple constraints of any project or initiative, if it's not clear that the quality of the experience is the most important thing, it will never show. So your actions expresses priorities.
That's a good quote. I try to also talk about how those actions, and the interpretation piece on the other side, especially with my kids.
Yes.
Like, what do you think that they're thinking about you now that you've done that? Trying to create that awareness, right? Okay, so I know talked about your transition and going through and being in the boiler room and being with the Capital One, the financial blow up and all these things, and you've had quite an interesting journey. And I'm sure there was a lot of humps that you've had to get over. But is there one particular story that you can share with us where we can learn?
Sure. So back in 2012, like I said, for Constant Contact, I helped build one of the world's kind of first scalable social customer service teams, and leveraging communities for customer service. And Constant Contact was amazing in letting me kind of go all over the country and even to China to evangelize, how we built these out and the scale that we created, and where this was going from, going to, I should say. Social media now is pretty ubiquitous in our lives, but even just in 2012, it wasn't that, way. And I think my head got a little full of itself. I'm going to conferences, and I'm speaking in front of hundreds of people, and I'm having dozens of people come up to me afterwards, and I'd love to understand how to do this. And so in 2012, I went off on my own and built the pace of service, and I thought, everybody is going to come to me because nobody else is doing this yet, and they know they need it. And it was just massively humbling to to learn how to be the janitor, the marketing guy, the sales guy, the accountant, the everything that goes into being an individual, the owner of an individual consultancy and such. I could do the execution stuff, blindfolded, it seemed like, but it was all the all the other pieces that became involved, and understanding kind of how how to get your own company off the ground and make it successful. And that was my hump. I'd say I'd say where the getting over the hump piece was a little bit of the the understanding, like, here's how my pipeline needs to look. Here's how my here's the things I need to do early on, whether it's in social or blog writing or doing interviews like this, that start piling up and start building a relationship with individuals to create that that trust that enables me to be able to come into your organization. And most of the times, I do fairly long stints with organizations, typically 8 months to a year. A lot of times I'm working as an interim director or vice president or something along those kind of lines, while you're going through a transition, or while you're looking to build out, what your eventual experience. So that was probably my biggest hump. It was tough.
Okay, so I have to ask you, I mean, with that humbling experience, and, gosh, I've been through that, there's a whole lot of anxiety, there's a whole lot of other things that come in, doubt, and so it's like, okay, turn around, I need to go back. So you didn't,
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
What does that mean? Well, don't get me wrong. I do think the full-time world, it's not a grass is greener in the consultancy world versus the full-time world. It's just two different kinds of grass, right? And I enjoy both. There's definitely something, maybe that's probably why a lot of my consultant opportunities go, last for 8 months to a year, where I actually, get to do things like develop associates for a period of time. And, afterwards I usually continue to mentor them, or, build out, larger infrastructures for them, that are a little bit longer lasting than, some initial short-term.
Well, I think one of the things that, kind of what you were talking about, and as you were explaining all of these different aspects and all the, that we have the internal, the external, the outside in, the inside out. I mean, this is not simple stuff that we're talking about here. I mean, so to me, it's like it's congruent in regards to talking about that whole long term. We're talking about transformations here. We're not talking about, fixing, something that's broken and just being up and going in a week or two. It's much longer in nature than that.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think one of the lesser known and least utilized competencies or disciplines out there is change management. Not the source code change management, but how do you help people go through that up and down curve? Some people call it the curve of despair, and or the valley of despair, through that and come out up on top. How do you help them become aware of the change and have the desire or need for the change, know how to get through it, have the ability to get through it, how do you reinforce it? Any successful, I think consultant needs to be a change management agent first and foremost. You can't, just come in here and say, like, here's what I think you should do, go buy. It has to be, there's a lot more process and discipline that's associated with it.
Well, and I think that goes for that internal person too. I mean, because I think when you start talking about change in today's environment and world, I think that's really that primary competency, is that. It's not, managing the customer experience per se. I think it's change management to be more customer centric.
Yeah. And you can apply a lot of those change management competencies, obviously, like you said, to your customer. If you're going to change your website or change your process or change, whatever, right? You're looking for the adoption of that change, right? And not only you're looking for the adoption of that change, you're looking for the adoption at that change at the highest velocity and value as possible, right? So, the analogy I'll use here is you download a new iPhone app, right? If it isn't intuitive or instructional and easy to use, what ends up, or valuable, right? What ends up happening? It just becomes this app that you never use on your phone again, what have you. But if you find an app where, it's easy to use, understandable, you understand what that change means, you understand that the value that change provides, and if you can get that change, that value at velocity, it becomes much more useful and, for lack of a better term, successful, like we talked about earlier.
Most definitely. Okay, so we're glad you didn't turn back, and the Fast Leader Legion continues to wish you the very best. Now, before we move on, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. An Even Better Place to Work is an easy-to-use solution that gives you a continuous diagnostic on employee engagement along with integrated activities that will improve employee engagement and leadership skills in everyone. Using this award-winning solution is guaranteed to create motivated, productive, and loyal employees who have great work relationships with their colleagues and your customers. To learn more about An Even Better Place to Work, visit beyondmorale.com/better. So here we go, Fast Leader Legion. It's time for the Hump Day Hoedown.
Okay.
The Hump Day Hoedown is the part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Michael Pace, are you ready to hoe down?
I am ready to hoe down. I am not. I will say that one of my development opportunities is to be more succinct and faster. So this will be a good test of my skills here.
Sounds good. So what do you think is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
What's holding me back is, I'd say I am still constantly working on my communication, still constantly working on my public speaking, still working on getting my value proposition, clear and succinct, as I just mentioned earlier.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
Best leadership advice I ever received. One of my earlier manager told me, like, you are all business all the time. To get people to follow you and such, it's more than just actions. You got to be able to build rapport, build relationships with people. Focus more of your time on building relationships than the actions that you want to take.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
One of my secrets, I am jack of all trades, master of none. I could do project management, process management, change management, community management. I could do workforce management. There's all these kinds of managements I could do, but I would probably say I am not the best at any one of them in particular.
What do you feel is one of your best tools that helps you lead in business or life?
Best tools. So it's less of tools, but like I'd say having, great mentors and great people to soundboard against, whether it's, you have an idea or you have a passion or, something you can, bound things against. It's part of the reason why I love the NECCF. It's a community of, customer service leaders from all over New England, and you can just bounce things off, and have those pure relations.
And what would be one book that you'd recommend to our Legion? And it could be from any genre.
Okay. There's a lot of great books, but somebody was asking me about this recently, and I know you are, a passionate man about a pivotal role in customer organizations, the supervisor. I think the best book I've ever read for supervisors is it's called The 360-Degree Leader, and it's a great book because it shows, it talks about both leadership, leading up, leading down, leading sideways, leading, and it's such an important thing for supervisors to be able to do is, manage up to their managers and directors and obviously their associates and, all those different peer groups that they interact with. So while there's a lot of fantastic books, I'm going to pick one, the 360-Degree Leader.
I appreciate that. Okay, Fast Leader Legion, you can find links to that and other bonus information from today's show by going to fastleader.net/Michael Pace. Okay, Michael, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to take your knowledge and skills back with you to going back to the age of 25. But you know what? You can't take everything back. You can only choose one. So what skill or piece of knowledge would you take back with you and why?
Wow. going back to 25. I was young and stupid and energetic at that point in time. One skill, like I said, I would probably go back to understanding how to kind of build and foster great relationships with people. And part of that would be some of the coaching and managing people skills that I've developed, but also. Again, I guess similar to, how I think about the pace of service, helping people around me become more successful. I think at the time, being 25, it was just, how fast can I go forward, myself. So,
Michael, it was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with the Fast Leader Legion how they can connect with you?
Sure. They can connect with me at thepaceofservice.com. Obviously also on LinkedIn. If you live or work in the Northeast, feel free to join or come to one of the Northeast Contact Center Forum events. I'm the president there and always at those events. You can go to NECCF.org for more information about that as well. And you can always reach me on Twitter at McPace, MICPACE.
Michael Pace, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.